Hello, everybody. This is War Frog, and today I have a special guest, Amy Nordahl. Amazing Amy Nordahl, who I'm calling the Road Queen. Since you don't have a nickname, I'm calling you the Road Queen. So when I got to this RV park, uh, uh, everybody saw I rode a motorcycle, and it wasn't long before I get to talking to people, and they were saying, "Oh, have you rode with Amy yet? Have you rode with Amy yet?" And finally got a chance to ride with her last Saturday.
Yes.
And we had so much fun. And she knows the road so well. And watching her ride the bike, you could tell she was an experienced rider, which is awesome. I love seeing that. I love following somebody that knows what they're doing. So let's jump right into it, Amy.
Okay.
Where were you born at? And where were you raised? And how did you get into motorcycles?
I was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin. I've lived in Wisconsin my whole life. When my parents got divorced when I was really young, and when my mom got remarried, I was in early teens, and her husband rode, and he taught her to ride. And they used to take us on motorcycle camping weekends all the time, and some trips, not a lot, but they started a sobriety motorcycle club. And I just loved the culture, that hanging with all of those people. My parents were both recovering alcoholics. And
I was going to ask you if he was in a club or something.
Yep. So they started one in La Crosse, and I just loved everything about it. We'd have campouts, and so
some of the best people you ever meet are on a motorcycle, don't you think?
Yes,
I mean,
for sure.
It's awesome.
For sure. I have met across this country amazing people because I ride. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
So when I was after I got divorced, I had 2 children, became a single mom, and I decided I wanted to learn to ride a motorcycle. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah. At what age was that? When you first got on a motorcycle, how old were you?
When I first got on one, I was 13.
13 by yourself?
No, that was on the back.
Yeah.
And then I got my endorsement when I was 20, and my mom gifted me her 750 Shadow. Yeah. And that was my first motorcycle and the first bike I learned to ride on.
Yeah.
And
was there any apprehension? Were you scared, or you were just
all.
So eager to do it?
Just loved it from day one. Yeah. From day one,
took to it riding. Like a duck to water.
Exactly. It's my favorite thing to do. Yeah. Really. And
then no accidents. I mean, was there some bumps in the road as you're riding, as you're learning?
Not in the beginning. Yeah. I didn't. Well. Not on 2 wheels. The weekend after I got my endorsement, we had a camp out for the sobriety club, and one of the guys owned a VW trike. They were big back then. They would just come out on the market. Yeah. And he said, "Take that for a ride now that you got your endorsement." So I jumped on, completely forgot that the back end is really wide. Yeah. And drove right up over a car.
Were you injured or anything?
Everybody there was really cool about it, and I didn't do any real damage. But yeah, so.
And so your first bike again was?
A 750 Honda Shadow.
A Honda Shadow. How many years did you have that?
I had that for probably 6 years, and then I bought a 650 Maxim. Which was also a very fun bike. Yeah. After that, I had a 1000 Virago, which I absolutely loved. I've read that those were great. So well balanced, so fun to ride, just zippy, and it was a great bike. I love that bike.
So you have no fear of pulling the throttle, I've seen.
No, not much. I'm a little more tame now than I used to be, but yeah.
Let's see. Now. What's the bike you have now? What is that one?
It is a 1600 Kawasaki Nomad, and I added a fairing and a trunk. In the trunk I took off last year just because I can't get a mount that is good for it, so it bangs a lot and it breaks the brackets and the hinges all the time. Yeah. And I guess got tired of it, so I took it off. And
it's got a great paint job. And during the course of this video course, I will overimpose some pictures and things like that from ones that you'll send me of her bike and her parents, maybe her first few bikes, if you got pictures of them as well or whatever.
Probably not here.
We'll put those on there.
They're in
Amy's
photo albums.
Amy's motorcycle is beautiful. It's got a great paint job. Why don't you tell us a little bit? I think you told me something interesting on that. As you wear out the bikes, you take off the saddlebags, the tanks, and the paint job, basically.
I do.
And put that on a new bike.
Yeah. So the bike that I'm currently riding is the third bike that this paint has been on. The tins fit directly from 2005 to 2008 on a Kawasaki Nomad. So if I can find a low mild one of those years, I can transfer the paint. And so I've worn out 2 motorcycles, over 100,000 miles on those 2. So the paint itself has about 165,000 miles on it. It's getting pretty rough. I've decided this is probably its last bike that I'll transfer.
So let's touch on that. So Amy is putting on a lot of miles on the bike, and I put on 11,000, 12,000 miles on a bike, and I think, wow, that's a lot. How many do you put on a year?
I average 25 to 30,000 a year.
And that's amazing. So not only is that a lot of wear and tear on you and the bike, that's amazing to do that many miles. And how do you do that? So I think a large part of why you're going across the country.
I do cross country rides.
And,
yes.
And so let's hear a little bit about that. How'd you get started in doing these cross country rides? And it's for charities, if I'm correct. Yes. And why don't you talk about a little bit about that, what you do, and then of course we'll add links to this video as well. So when she does these, hopefully we can catch up with her and hopefully contribute.
That'd be awesome. So when you see my bike is painted. In 1999 or 1998, my son took his life. He was 12 years old, and I painted the bike. The front fairing is for my son in Jesus's arms, and the rest of the bike is for Jesus, because without Jesus, I'd have probably joined my son. It was pretty rough in those beginning years. Still can be from time to time, but now I do cross-country charity rides, raising awareness for youth suicide prevention and funds for organization. I've been raising funds for SAVE, which is Suicide Awareness Voices of Education. It's based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is close to where I live in Wisconsin. And they provide assistance to people all around the world, actually, for coping with people who are suicidal, not just teens, but anyone, and for survivors of people who have lost someone to suicide. Yeah. So
grief can be overwhelming.
It can be. And I didn't know anything about this organization. When I lost my son, I was turned on to it through Facebook. I was just looking at events in my area, and I saw that they were having a charity ride not too far from where I live. And I decided I was going to see if they needed help and to do any of this, because I was interested in their program. And so I called them up, and they asked me if I could come help with registration. And I said, sure. So I went over early. I helped with registration. They saw my bike. They said, would you speak? Because otherwise you're going to have to explain your story to every single person who sees your bike.
Yeah, so it's a fascinating story.
I got up and I told them the story about my son and why I was there. And then we took off on the ride. And my son took his life at my ex-husband's house. And this ride started in Minnesota, probably about 40 miles from where I live, and about 60 miles from where my ex-husband lives. But the ride went right past his house. And I just thought, well, this is God telling me you need to pair up with this organization. Yeah. And so I decided I wanted to do cross-country rides, raising
how inspirational awareness. That is. And so tell us a little bit some of those rides. So you start from, I imagine, one coast?
Well, it depends. So the first ride I did was Highway 12, because my son was 12. And so
hopefully we'll put up a map or something and show what she's actually doing.
Highway 12. So I did that because it was how old my son will be forever in human, and on this
in
earth.
Your mind, yeah.
And it goes from Michigan to Washington. And I have a
Highway 12 does?
Highway 12, okay. Yep, US 12. And then the next one I did was Highway 2, and I chose 2 because it is the second leading cause of death in our children. So Highway 2 runs coast to coast, Maine to Oregon, but it's in 2 segments. And so I did that in 2 segments. I did one in the early summer and one in the fall. But I did ride the entire coast, or coast to coast.
how long do you typically ride a day, or how many miles do you go? And then, do you have a support group with you when you do this?
No support group. It's just me solo out there. I do. It depends the ride. I don't schedule out my ride. So if I get on the bike in the morning,
you kind of wing it.
I wing it, and about 2 or 3 in the afternoon is when I usually start to look and see how much further I think I'm going to get for the day.
You told me this once,
and then I'll look for hotels at that point. The last ride I did was Highway 30 in its entirety, and I chose 30 because that was my 30 years of sobriety year that I did that.
Yeah.
And so I rode Highway 30 goes from Atlantic City, New Jersey, out to Oregon again.
Yeah.
And that one I chose, there's an organization called Bunka Biker.
Yeah.
And I decided I was going to try to get more publicity for my ride. And so people were able to track me online all the way across the country, and then I stayed with strangers through this Bunka Biker program. And that really was my favorite because I met so many more people. People could see where I was, and they would message me and say, you're coming through my area. Can we have coffee? And you just heard so many more stories. Everybody's been touched by suicide in one way or another.
And that's why you're so worthy of an interview. That this needs to be out there, and people need to be aware of such things. It's inspirational what you're doing. And when you're riding with Amy, she is one with that bike, and it is so much fun to do it. So if we have an opportunity to include the links so you can follow Amy and see her adventures, now that'll lead me into the next question. Mm-hmm. What's your next ride? What you got planned?
Next year, my son would have turned 40 if he was still on Earth. And so I'm going to ride Highway 40, US 40 in its entirety from coast to coast. I may have a passenger. My grandson thinks he wants to do this with me, which he'll be 13. He'll be 14 at the time of the ride.
It would be fun.
So far, his longest ride is about 30 miles. So we'll see.
He's going to have to callous his butt for this a little bit. And it does take some callus. So when you're on the bike all day,
for sure.
You do get, so let's get into a little bit of that, little wear and tear. Now, during the course of these rides, do you feel it? I mean, are you getting some wear and tear on yourself, not only in your
mostly
bike.
Mentally, actually. Mostly mentally, just because I hear so many stories. It's very heavy on my heart and my brain to hear everybody's stories. It's good, but it's also very exhausting. So usually when I finish a ride, I take like a week before I make the ride home from whichever coast I'm on, just to kind of clear myself, because it does drain on you.
I bet emotionally and physically.
Yeah.
What a wonderful thing to go through and contribute. Hopefully, people see this and are inspired by that. That's awesome. Now I also have here, what are some of your favorite places to ride? Since you've gone across the country, and from what people telling me what they know about you know the road so well. Is it just Texas? Are you very familiar with? Are you familiar with all across the country?
Back roads, I'm familiar with them in Wisconsin and Texas, just because I spend half my year in each place. Across the country, I've been in every state on my motorcycle. I have ridden all the big motorcycle roads, anything that
Sturgis to
I've been in
Pig
Sturgis,
Trail.
never to bike week in Sturgis, because I don't do crowds like that. But I love to ride out there.
But the Black Hills are beautiful.
They are. I don't know that I have a favorite place. There's so many beautiful places across this country. Everywhere I go, I find beauty.
Have you done that $1 million mile in
$1 million
Colorado?
highway in Colorado? I have several times. My favorite story about that is doing it in hail. That's never fun. I don't wear a helmet unless I'm forced to by the state. And so I was with a group actually riding the $1 million highway, and it started to hail on us, and I couldn't see a thing. The road, it was starting to build up on the road, and there's no place to turn off. I finally found a overlook that I was able to turn off on and get into some shelter, but it was awful.
It can be brutal. In the mountains, they always tell you, be prepared for it, because it'll be 80 and 90 degrees, sun shining, come around a corner, and it looks like the land of Mordor. If you're
Yeah.
if you're a nerd like me, yeah, you're with the dwarves and all that stuff. But it's a dark, ominous looking cloud, and the next thing you know, you're covered with ice,
Yes.
and the temperature drops, and you can't see if you know. And I wear goggles. I don't remember if you do or not.
Just glasses.
Yeah, so I've got goggles on, and I've had those things ice up or fog up, and then 20 minutes later, you're back out of it
in the sunshine,
and it's
warm,
crazy.
And you're peeling layers off because you're so warm.
Yeah. Now, you had recently got back from Mexico. Your husband and you went to Mexico for ministry work, or?
Yes. So we're on a board for a Feed My Lambs International, and the founder of it is my husband's best friend from high school.
We'll include a link. Of course, I'll ask you all these links and stuff, so you can send them to me, or I can add them onto the video. So
the ministry down there, they do all kinds of things, from camps for pastors in Mexico, camps for kids. They do give food to poorer communities around them. We went down to help. They had to redo their whole plumbing system, and we're doing a big renovation down there. It's been in the ministry has been a continual building process, but the main structure was built over 20 years ago, and so it's in need of some updates and things, which is what we went down to do.
That's awesome. And then I think we already kind of discussed your future rides, the 40, and then you're here in Texas for a while yet. So you're going to do some more. I think she said she's going to ride today. So let's not keep her too much longer. Got one more question for you. When she's spending so much time on the bike, one of my favorite things to do when I'm on a bike is if me and Tabitha are on a bike, or if I'm just by myself, is just go for a ride, put on some good music, and just enjoy it. What do you listen to, Amy?
70s rock.
70s rock. So like when I rolled up next to her the other day, she was listening to Neil Young, Horse with No Name, I think it was, or something. But what else do you? I mean, besides 70 rock, anybody in particular you like, or?
I like almost all genres. I don't like rap. Other than that,
I don't like rap either. Rap is short for crap.
Pretty much. I love Christian music. I even love some classical. My husband's big into classical, and
I don't mind
we
some
listen
classical.
to that sometimes.
Fear Release and that, yeah.
And one of my favorite more modern groups is probably Pentatonics. I just love their individual sounding.
They do the harmony kind of acapella, whatever they call it.
I just think they're amazing.
Yeah, I've caught that.
Jelly Roll. I love Jelly Roll.
Who?
Jelly Roll? You don't know who Jelly Roll is?
Oh, he's a guy who looks like graffiti on his face.
Big guy. He's got a great voice.
I'll have to listen to it. I think Tabitha's tried to get me to listen to it. I'm one of those guys like, nah, it's not. I don't like it. I don't want. And then I hear it and I go, who?
Yeah. If you didn't see his face.
Yeah. I was like Chris Stapleton the first time. I'm like, what is this? This isn't country. I was out. And then now I really like his music. You know. So
he's got a great voice also.
All right. Well, I think that'll wrap us up. And Amy, I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview, and hopefully we'll get some links, some pictures added onto this, and give us your thoughts, like the video, subscribe, and then we'll catch you on the next one.
All right.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right.